Hello friends, I hope that you are all well. I hope you've been taking the opportunity to practice from time to time as the need takes you. Before we begin class today, I would like to remind you that when you practice, please listen to your body. And if your body says don't do something, please don't do it. Also, I'd like to encourage you to drink more water. If you drink about 3 pints of water a day, that's usually very good for your body, for your skin, for your joints, for your blood vessels. So consider it. You know, some days you may, some days you may not, but do keep it in the back of your mind that you do need to consume perhaps more water than you do. So with the practice today, I'm going to start out with 2 of the warrior poses. I like the warrior poses to begin with because they do stretch the muscles nicely. They're a good beginning to any practice. So when you're practicing at home, if you think about it and you're interested in it, practice with the warrior series first before you do other poses. That allows the body to stretch, to open, to get the blood going. A good set. So I would like to start with Virabhadrasana II, Warrior 2. So please start with your feet 3.5 or 4 foot apart, or what happens to be a comfortable distance for you. Keep in mind that the distance is just a general guideline. So if you have longer legs and you're more flexible and you can take a wider stance, please do that. If you find that you need to have your legs in more, please do that. The thing is that whenever you take a pose, you want to take the pose so that you do not go beyond the edge of your abilities. Always practice moving out towards the edge, but don't go beyond the edge. If you do reach the edge, pull your practice back, pull yourself back so that you are just a little bit before the edge, if you know what I mean. But again, listen to your body. If you feel like your muscles are pulling, you've gone too far. Sometimes you need to let the body warm up before you go deeper into a practice. And the Virabhadrasana series is a good way to start. So, standing with the feet a comfortable distance apart, with the feet pointing forwards. Press down with the big toes. Create the arches in your feet. Even if you're flat-footed, just by pressing down the big toes, that helps to lift up the arches even though it may not look like it. So, press down with the big toes. Now, turn the right foot out, bring the right foot down, look at the foot. The foot wants to be pointing directly forwards, not turning slightly to the left or slightly to the right unless you've had damage to your ankle or to your foot, and you can't do that. Bring the rear toes in a little bit so you have a little better balance. Press down with the big toes in both feet. Bring the right knee so that it's directly above the right ankle. The joint of the knee is above the ankle bone. The kneecap itself, the patella, lines up with the second toe. To help do that, keep the big toe pressing down. That will help to keep the knee aligned. Put your hands on your hips for a moment and notice that the left hip is further forward than the right hip. That is how it should be. If the hips are flush, then your legs are not going to be in the right position. What you'll find is that your knee, the front knee, will start leaning in, and you don't want that. You want to have the knee so that it generally lines up with the second toe. Bring the arms up, roll them over, bring the wrists back. Try and have the arms at shoulder height. However, if that's not available to you, please don't force it. Have your arms as it is comfortable for you to have them right now. But keep the arms active. The wrists, try to keep the wrists from getting too tight. So for a moment, just drop the wrist down, then bring the hands up. Lift the clavicles, the collarbones, drop the spine of scapula, the top part of the shoulders, drop them down your back. Allow the head to be in a nice neutral position. Keep the chin slightly tucked. The rear leg, I want you to imagine that you're pulling the rear leg behind you without actually moving the leg. Keep the rear leg strong. That's where the energy of the pose is coming from. Now, when you're ready to, just begin turning your head towards the right. Don't force the head around. Let the head turn at a rate that it wants to go at. Keep an eye on the knee. The knee is the most vulnerable bit in this pose. Listen to your body. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Keep the collarbones lifting upwards. I've heard them called the bucket handles. Lift the bucket handles up. Press the outer edges of the feet down. How does your left groin feel? How does it feel? Does it feel tight here? If it feels tight, draw the front leg back. Now remember, whenever you're ready to come out of the pose, come out of the pose. Don't stay in the pose a particular time just because I happen to be doing that. You must listen to your body when you practice. Listening to your body is one of the 4 cornerstones of the physical practice. Keep the chin tucked a little bit. Keep the shoulders relaxed. Constantly monitor your body. Constantly let your mind go around your body. Find any tight spots. Ask them to relax. Try and relax the left buttock a little bit. Imagine you're lifting the front leg up off the mat. If you need to drop the arms down for a moment or two, drop them, but then bring them back up. Now, straighten the front leg, feet face the front. Regain your equilibrium. Now turn the left foot out. Bring the joint of the left knee so that it's above the ankle bone. Press down with the big toes. Draw the rear leg behind you. Lift the clavicles. Drop the spine of scapula. Your torso wants to be generally straight up and down. If you find that you're leaning forwards, your stance is too wide. Draw the front leg back a little bit. Remember, you're going to get a lot more out of this if you listen to your body and you don't force yourself into a particular position. As you breathe, try to breathe from the tummy, but don't force your breath. Keep an eye on the knee. Make any subtle adjustments your body suggests. Can you hear the cicadas? Straighten the front leg, feet face the front. Return to Tadasana, the mountain pose. Stand with your feet together, heels slightly apart. If you find that putting the toes together and having the heels slightly apart doesn't work for you and you want to have slightly wider stance with the feet, do that, but just make sure that the outer edges of your feet don't go wider than your hips are. Lift the toes up, stretch them forwards, bring them down onto the mat, press the big toes down. Pull the muscles up on the sides of the legs. The muscles on the outside of the legs go down towards the ground. Engage the muscles just above the pubis very lightly. It's a very slight pulling up motion. Tuck the 2 floating ribs. Lift the clavicles, the collarbones. Drop the spine of scapula, the top part of the shoulders. Externally rotate the deltoid muscles. To do that, simply turn the hands out. Lengthen your spine gently. Imagine you have a hand just behind the back, very gently pushing upwards. Be mindful of your breath. Now, the next pose that we're going to do is Virabhadrasana I, Warrior I. To do that, turn and face whatever happens to be the front of your mat. Feet are hip width apart. Now, this is not the traditional way to get into the pose. The traditional way to get into the pose is to be in the Warrior II position and twist the hips around. But I don't like that because I find that it puts an awful lot of strain on the hip joints and it pulls a lot at the muscles. So I find that a much better way is to simply, we're going to be keeping the right leg in front, so step backwards with the left. And look for the joint of the knee lining up with the ankle bone. The kneecap lines up with the second toe. Put your hands on your hips. The hips are generally square to the front. Now the reason why I like the stepping back version, or one of the reasons why I like the stepping back version, is that it allows you to step back at a width or a length that your body likes. If you step back, you're a lot less likely to step too far back. If you are in the Virabhadrasana II, Warrior II position, where your legs are far apart, and then you twist around to the front, your legs are going to be too far apart, for most people, too far apart than they should be, given how tight your hips are. So, remember to step back, have your feet hip-width apart, and just simply step back. So you'll go back to the natural position that your body wants to be at. You may find that you just need to move the leg. Once you put the left leg in position, just move the front leg if you need to. Always move the front leg rather than the rear leg once you're in the position, because the rear leg is where the action of the pose is coming from, where the strength of the pose is coming from. So check the knee, the joint of the knee, check the hips, lift the clavicles, tuck the two floating ribs, bring the arms up, hold a nice large beach ball. If you can, put your hands together above you. Please only do that if the arms themselves touch the ears. If you're doing it and your arms are like that, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Bring the arms up simply to whatever height works for you. Lift the clavicles, the collarbones, drop the spinous scapula, tuck the two floating ribs. Make sure that your lower back feels good. The lower back is the most vulnerable bit in this pose, followed by the knee. So first the back, your lower back must feel comfortable, and the knee must feel comfortable. If you find that you're fighting your knee, if the knee wants to keep moving backwards, your stance is too wide. If the knee easily goes beyond, then probably your stance is not wide enough. But if you do make it wider, do be very careful about how that puts torque on the lower back. Lower back first, then the length, and make sure the knee lines up. Keep the big toes active. Relax the chin, lengthen the back of the neck a little bit. Keep the face soft. Take the opportunity from time to time to check your knee. Keep the lower back relaxed. Try to keep the buttocks from getting too tight. Try and keep the buttocks slightly relaxed, especially at the upper part of the buttocks. Now, drop the arms down, step forwards, regain your equilibrium. Now, I'm going to turn around to do the other side. Now, feet are hip width apart. Step back now with the right foot. Again, you may find the distance is different with one side than it is with the other. So you may have better stretch stepping back with the left foot than you do with the right foot. So please keep that in mind and allow yourself to have those differences. Check the hips, check the feet. Feet are pointing forwards unless damage to your foot or ankle. Kneecap generally lines up with the second toe, joint of the knee. Lower lumbar, how does that feel? Does it feel tight? Bring the arms up, hold a nice large beach ball. Lift the clavicles, the collarbones, drop the top part of the shoulders, the spinous scapula. Tuck the two short ribs, the lowermost ribs, tuck them just a little bit. Please remember to breathe, and when you breathe, if it's available to you, it may not be right now, breathe from the tummy. But don't force your breath. Just be mindful of where it is. Keep the buttocks slightly relaxed. Keep the lower lumbar, the lower part of the back relaxed. If that becomes tight, you need to shorten your stance. Do not overtax your lower back. Now drop the arms down, step forwards, come out of the pose, regain your equilibrium. Stand in Tadasana for a moment. Tadasana, the mountain pose, is a great neutralizer. It's always good after doing standing poses, whatever standing poses you happen to be doing in your practice. When you finish one pose, move back to the mountain pose, or Tadasana as it's also called, so your body becomes neutralized again. It's rather like a palate cleanser, but this pose is a very important pose, and it is not easy to do really well because you need to work on the muscles. You need to be aware of the muscles in your body as you practice it. Now, the next pose that I would like to work on is Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Now, please come down onto your mat. Come down gently. Come down onto your knees. Pause for a moment. If you would like to, just do a very quick Balasana, Repose of the Child. You could have your knees together or apart, depending on what you like. Put your hands on your feet just for a moment. Now bring the hands back beside the knees and bring yourself up. This is just an intermediate pose between working from one to another. So I did not ask you to use a block. I did not ask you to use a pillow or a strap if you needed to. Normally I would say, have a block or something to rest your head on if your head won't easily come to the floor. Don't just have your head floating in the air. The head must rest on something. So, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Please come into a tabletop position. Bring the buttocks down towards the heels. Stretch the arms out in front of you. Press down with the thumbs and the first and second finger. Then bring yourself up. Look at the creases on the wrists. The creases on the wrists. They face forwards unless you've had damage to your wrists or to your hands, and they won't do that. Splay the fingers nicely. Press down with the thumbs. Press down with the first and second fingers. Move the knees back a little bit if you like. Bring the buttocks back towards the heels again. Then the eyes of the elbows, rotate them very gently towards the ceiling. Bring the knees up off the mat. Lengthen your spine. Lift the collarbones up. Drop the back part of the shoulders, the shoulder blades down your back towards your hips. The spine is lengthening. Let the buttocks blossom a little bit. Press down with the big toes. Press down with the sides of the feet. Pull the arches up. Pull the insides of the legs up towards the groin. The outer edges of the legs go down towards the sides of the feet. Keep the hands active. The hands are pushing you away. They're pushing away, pushing away. Keep the spine lengthening comfortably. The ears are in between the arms or working towards it. Be mindful of your breath. Listen to your body. Now, if you want to,
If you find that the lower part of your back is tight, bend the knees. If you bend the knees a little bit, that'll bring the heels up off the mat, and that will allow your lower back to be more relaxed, more comfortable. If you find that that does not help, get a block or a thick book, a telephone directory, if they're still around, or just a couple of thick books, and put them down for your heels to rest on. It's important that your heels are not just in the air. It's important for them to be resting on something. You'll find that if the heels are resting on something, you will allow the muscles to relax a little more, and in relaxation, you will get a little bit more length. Do not force it. Don't force it. And whenever you are ready to come out of the pose, please come out of the pose. I know that for some people, this pose can be rather difficult. One of the main things to remember is to keep the arms active. Keep the arms strong. Keep the legs strong. Engage the toes and the thumbs. Let the back lengthen. If you want to, bend the right knee, keep the left heel on the mat or on the blocks. This allows the left side to open, the left groin to open up a little bit. Then straighten the right, bend the left knee. How do your ears feel? If you feel pulsation in your ears, if it feels like there's drumming in the ears, or you feel nauseous, please, please come out of the pose. Do not overstay the welcome of a pose. Now, with the heels on the mat or on the block, look at your feet. The toes are pointing directly forwards, and the heels line up behind the toes. So the heels are not sticking out to one side, or sticking out, or sticking inwards. They're directly behind. Pull your kneecaps up. Remember, only hold this as long as it's comfortable for you. So if you've gone past your comfort zone, do come out of the pose. Relax the body. Lengthen the spine. Keep the arms strong. Keep the toes active. Keep the arches pulled up. The sides of the feet are pressing down. Listen to your body. This is a wonderful pose, but it must not be pushed. Now, very gently come down onto your knees. And now, the next pose that we're going to do is Vasisthasana, which is an arm balance. Yes, that's what I've got written there. Vasisthasana. I've got all the things written down here so I can remember them. I can't. Otherwise, my brain doesn't engage. Unless I'm actually teaching in a classroom, then it's a lot easier for me for some reason. So, Vasisthasana. Vasisthasana is an arm balance. So, I'm going to start on the right-hand side. So I'll turn around. Now, to begin this pose, you start from a push-up position, also called Planka Asan. Now, what you do is you put your weight into the right hand and stack one foot on top of the other, and then bring your arm up. Now, if that doesn't work for you, you can do this. You can either put the foot behind you for balance or the foot in front for balance, or if you wanted to, you could simply lay down and then just have the arm lining up with the sides like so. This one may not work so well for you, but it is an option. But the main thing I want you to be mindful of is how your back is feeling. How does the lower lumbar feel? Keep the arm lined up. So, to begin with, come into Planka Asan, the plank pose. Find your balance, then turn the feet so the right foot is on the ground, the left foot stacks up. Press down with the hand, keep the arms active, keep the legs strong.
With the fingers on the up hand, imagine the hand is being pulled up to the sky. The cicadas have got them and pulling them up. Unless that feels weird to you. And if you have bad balance, remember, everybody has bad balance days. I certainly do. And I'm in my 5th decade of doing this. Now, to come out, simply roll down, or come out whatever way works the best for you. And then we'll now do the left side. You may find that this side works better for you than the other side did. You know, it depends on the strength in your arms. It depends on what you've got going on with your muscles at the time. Whatever it is, allow your body to be the way that the body wants to be. So if the body's balance is off today, that's okay. Everybody has that. So, back into the plank Asan position, the plank pose. Turn, stack the feet in whatever way works for you. Extend the arms up, or have it simply laying on the side of your body. Listen to your body, lengthen the spine. Keep the body extending. Breathe. And then come out of the pose whenever you want to. And then come out of the pose. Now, Balasana, repose of the child. This is a very important pose. There are a couple of ways you can approach this. You can have your knees together, thighs together, or you can have them apart. Whichever happens to work for you. Thighs apart, thighs together. You can use a block to rest your head on, or like so. You could have a couple of blocks, but like I said earlier on, please make sure that your head is resting on something. The head is not simply floating in the air. Of course, it's attached to your body, but still, you don't want to have the weight on the neck. So you want to make sure that your head is resting on something. Hands beside the knees. Exhaling, bring yourself down.
Rest the head on the block or on the mat or on whatever it is that you're having it rest on. Keep the hands beside you for a moment. Then draw the hands back, providing the head is comfortable, the neck is comfortable. Just simply let the elbows go down towards the floor. The hands are touching the feet, the outer edges of the feet. This allows your shoulders to open a little bit. But don't hold it there long, just long enough for you to notice that the shoulders are broadening. Then release the hands, and you can put the hands back. You can have the elbows beside you or out in front if you like. That doesn't really work so well for me. I don't really like that one. So usually I just keep the hands beside me. Now, when you're coming out of the pose, put the hands beside the knees, put the weight in the hands, and use the strength in your arms, not the back. The strength in your arms to bring you up. You're pushing up with the hands, pushing up with the arms. Pause for a moment. Whenever you come out of poses that are on the ground, pause in between one pose and another pose, or pause at different stages. Allow your body to become reacclimatized out of the pose. The next pose we're going to do is Ustrasana, the camel pose. Now with the camel pose, if you don't want to do this pose, please don't do the pose. In none of the poses you have to do. So always listen to your body. Some days my body likes doing Ustrasana, some days it does not. Now, Ustrasana, basically,
looks like this. Knees are hip width apart. Put your hands on your buttocks as if you were putting your hands in pockets. The elbows are generally pointing backwards. You could have the toenails on the mat or the soft part of the toes on the mat, whichever you happen to prefer. In the long run, you're going to go for the toenails on the mat. But if you want to have the soft part of the toes on the mat and the heels higher up, please do that. Now, you can simply just press the heels of the hands into the buttocks and just lean back, lengthening the torso comfortably, keeping the legs active. Pull the kneecaps up, lengthen the spine, and simply, this may be enough of a back bend for you today. Keep your chin slightly tucked so the neck feels comfortable. If you want more, you could take the hands down and put the hands on the heels. Don't just have the hands floating in the air. Lengthen the spine comfortably. You want to make sure it's even. Allow the back to arch as it wants to, but keep it even. Don't just have the bend at the lower part of the back near the hips. Now to come out, put one hand up, other hand up. If you want to use a block, you could put the block in between the heels and hold on to the block. Personally, I don't like that. But that is just my thing. When you're finished, sit down. The next pose we're going to do is Bajanga Asan, the Cobra pose, which is another back bend. So, lay down on your tummy. Toenails are on the mat. If it gives you cramp in your feet to have toenails on the mat, do have the soft part of the toes on the mat. Pause for a moment, let the buttocks relax. Now, with this pose, with the elbows, I want you to have the elbows gently touching the sides or pressing gently into the sides. The elbows are not sticking out towards the sides. The fingers, the wrists are pointing forwards. Keep your chin tucked a little bit. Put the toes together, the legs together, providing that's available to you. Your body makeup may not let you do that, and if that's the case, that's fine. But the main thing is I want you to have your legs strong. The legs are really active, so the inner parts of the legs are pulling up towards the groin, the outer edges of the legs are going down towards the heels, the kneecaps are pulling up towards you. Your chin is tucked, your spine is comfortably lengthening, your elbows are pressing into the sides, the thumbs and the forefingers and second fingers are pressing firmly into the mat. Then very gently adjust your hands so the hands are slightly underneath the shoulders. Then bring yourself up. You're using mainly your back muscles to do this. Your elbows are active, the hands are active. Keep the chin tucked. Breathe. And come down. Allow the body to relax. Move the hands beside you, fingernails on the mat. Now, move the hands so they're rather underneath the shoulders. Push yourself back. Bring the knees forwards and go back into repose of the child, Balasana. So knees together or apart. Use the block or don't use the block, or you could use a blanket to rest the head on, or a book or something like that, but make sure the head is resting on something. Otherwise, your body won't relax.
Hands to hold the feet, the outer edges of the feet a little bit. Listen to your body. Now move the hands back beside the knees.
Use the strength in your arms to bring you up. Now the next pose that we're going to do is the final pose. It is Shavasana, the corpse pose. When you practice the corpse pose and you're laying down, I want you to have something to rest your head on. Don't just have your head resting on the mat. If you do have your head resting on the mat, what's going to happen is, especially with a long Shavasana, what will happen is the head will start to tilt backwards and the back of the neck will start to become compressed. So you don't want that. So you want something that's going to elevate your head slightly. I happen to like a block. Some of my students like to use blankets. Whatever works for you. Something that is sort of firm that will keep your head in place. The other thing is that I want you to, before you go into Shavasana completely, I want you to look at your feet. Have the legs so they're going directly out from the body, not slightly to the left or slightly to the right. Unless for some reason that's what your body does. If you have scoliosis or something like that that causes your hips to shift that way, then of course you have to go with that. The other thing I recommend is a blanket. Normally I would use a blanket, but it's a little warm here today, so I will not be using a blanket. But I encourage you to do so. And if you wear glasses as I do, take the glasses off when you're in this, so you don't have the pressure on the bridge of the nose. So, I will begin Shavasana, but then after a moment or two, I'm going to sit up into meditation. And you are welcome to join me in brief meditation, and I will tell you a time when you can start doing the meditation if you choose to do so. You could also practice the meditation while you're laying down. So please do not feel that you need to be seated. If you are going to be seated, please sit on something so your hips are elevated off the mat, so the lower lumbar area of your spine has that very nice curve. That will let you know that your back is relaxed. If the lower back is flat, then more than likely it's going to be too tight. So, lay down. Before you use the block, lay on the floor first entirely, the head on the floor, everything. Allow the body to relax. Then, once your body has relaxed, move the block into place. Move the hips. Make sure the hips, thighs, and buttocks are equally weighted. Make sure that the legs are going directly out from the body. Adjust the shoulders, then move the block into place, or the pillow into place. Now have whatever it is that you're using, just have the occipital ridge, the bump on the back of the head, have that so that it is on the block or on the pillow or whatever. Try to avoid any pressure on the back of the neck. You may not be able to do that, and if that's the case, that's the case. But just be mindful that you want to have the least amount of pressure on the neck as you can. Turn the hands up. Now, beginning at the feet, tighten the feet, then relax the feet. Tighten the calves, relax the calves. Tighten the quadriceps and the hamstrings of the thighs and then relax them. Tighten the muscles in the groin, the buttocks, and the lower back, then relax them. Now, beginning at the lower lumbar, at the coccyx, working all the way up from the coccyx to the lower lumbar, and up towards the shoulders. Tighten and relax the muscles along the way. When you get to the shoulders, relax the shoulders. Tighten the hands, relax the hands. Tighten the forearms, relax the forearms. Tighten the upper arms, relax the upper arms. Now tighten your shoulders and then relax them. Tighten the neck and then the throat and then relax them. Scrunch the face up as if you've had something bitter. Relax the face. Relax the upper lip between the nose and the upper lip. Allow your eyes to turn clockwise several times. Then bring them back to stillness. Allow them to turn widdershins or anti-clockwise several times. Relax any muscles that you feel that are tight. Let your mind go around your body. This is the most important of all the poses, I'll say it again, of all the poses, this is the most important one. So please don't skip this pose. Always finish with this pose. And now I'm going to sit in meditation for a few minutes. But if you want to continue on as you are in Shavasana, please do that. You can continue on even when I stop this practice. So I leave that up to you, of course. It's your practice. Please simply follow your breath. Follow your breath in and down towards the hips. Exhaling up and out. Just continue to do that. Don't force the breath to go a particular way. Just watch the breath going in, watch the breath going out. If you're in meditation, seated meditation, keep the eyes open just a little bit. Get used to practicing your meditation with your eyes slightly open rather than closed. Thank you for practicing with me, friends. Do continue to practice. Practice 3 times a week if you can, or more. But if you can only manage once a week, that's fine too. But the main thing is to make a habit of it. If you are interested in any books, I can recommend some books. Please don't hesitate to contact me. Leave comments. All the very best.